Crafters, welcome back and thanks for joining me. This is Jonna with Purple Girl Crafts. Today we are going to be making this little cube pop-up card box. And on the sides here, you could have put some other decorations, but I did the grain going two different ways to make it look more Barney looking. This card doesn't require any die cuts and it measures about 6 by 4, 4.5. So it'll definitely fit into a standard envelope. Right, so I grabbed my scoreboard and let's just get started. So our first piece, this is going to be cut at 6 by 10.5. On that 10.5-inch side, we are going to score this at 2.5, 5, 7.5, and 10. Then we are going to turn it on the other side, and we are going to score it at 3 inches, and you're going to start from the top and go down to that second score line. Then you're going to go from the bottom and you're going to go up to the second score line. So you're not going to score in that one panel because you want that to be straight and not be bent. So you should have something that looks like this. Then we will need one piece, and this is going to be 6 by 2.5. We need 3 pieces that are 2.25 by 2 3/4. Then we will need one piece at 3.5 by 2.5. We're going to turn that back on the 3.5-inch side. We're going to score it at 1/2 and 3 3. Then we need one piece of scrap, and this is 1/4, and it's just the side of a piece of paper, so it doesn't have to be only about 1 inch, 2 inches long. Then we need 15 pieces, and these are going to be 1/2 by 2.5. And those are all going the same way. Then I did 6 more, and then I did them at going the opposite direction. So I've got a different like grain. So you can see I've got one going up and down, one going sideways. So it just adds a little bit of variation when we glue these together. So I'll need 15 going the one way and then 6 going the other direction if you're going to use like a wood grain paper. All right, so that's all we need our scoreboard for. So we'll move that out of the way. And we're going to start with the base piece. I'm going to grab my trimmer. You can use scissors for this, but this is almost just as easy just to cut it in your trimmer. So I'm going to line it up on that score line, and I'm just going to cut it from the bottom up to the score line. So you're going to start on the first one and then move it over and do the same thing. So you're going to cut it again to the score line. One more time, lining it up, cut it up to that score line. Then I'm going to take the paper, I'm going to turn it all the way around just so it's easier to see. And we're going to put it on that last score line. But this time I'm going to lift up my blade. So once I get it situated, so lift it up, and I'm going to cut from the score line and then down to the top of the paper, because you want it to be cut all on the same side. And then we're going to take this and we're just going to cut this piece away, and we're going to do it at the top and the bottom and just cut that little notch off. Right, next for the top piece, and this is for the long piece that we did on the wood grain. I'm just going to line this up. I was going to use my ruler, but this is just as easy if you've got a cutting board like mine. I'm going to go in 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to line up on the other end. I'm going to go 1/2 inch on the top and 1/2 inch on the bottom. And then we're just going to take and we're going to cut those 2 pieces away. So we're just going to cut it from the mark to the mark. And it's just going to give just that little extra shape on there. You don't have to do this part. You can leave it straight if you want it. I think it just adds a little bit more to the card. And then this piece is going to get glued on the inside. But before we do that, let's go ahead and fold all of these down. So you're going to fold them all in the same direction. So you're going to skip that one that's not folded, and then fold the next 2. Then we're going to turn it over, and then we're going to fold the other side. So we're just going to flip those back open and then do it again, and just go ahead and just fold that first little piece down, crease it out, and then fold on each score line. And then we'll do the last one. And then it will go together like that. And then all of these will be folded down go in the other direction. And you could just crease those out again, just to make sure that they fold nicely. And then when you put it together, this is the piece that you'll have. All right, so we're going to glue this piece inside of the center of the card. And we're going to cut those little notches away, so it's going to be just a little bit bigger than the piece itself, which is fine. So I'm just going to put glue on this piece. And I'm just going to lay this down just so it's on that flat panel that we did not score. And it's going to go from top to bottom. And I know it's hard to see, but you've got just a tiny bit, like probably about a 1/16 of an inch edge all the way around it. And then so I'm just going to go ahead and I am just going to cut just that little bit off, leaving just that little bit of border around there. You don't really need to do this. You could cut it flat because we're going to end up putting paint on it. I realized afterwards, so you can just go ahead and just cut it just like that if you want, or you can cut it up to the edge of the paper because you're not going to know the difference. All right, now for that extra little piece, we're going to glue this to the inside of the card. So when the card is closed, let me just hold this. It's just going to sit inside of here just like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my paper again with my board. So I'm just going to line up on one of those lines. And then this piece is going to go sitting at the top, and it's just going to get glued to the inside on that first flap. And I'm just going to line it up. So I'm just going to put some glue on this one flap. And then I'm just going to, again, line it up. I'm going to go probably about 1/8 of an inch from the top. So barely at all, and just make sure it's lined up with that line. And then just go ahead and secure that down. And as you can see, once this is in, let me see if I can get this to close. Make sure it doesn't move on me while it's still trying to dry. You're also going to put glue on that side. Make sure this is secured down before you put that in there. All right, so we're going to put glue on here. And then just take the card and just fold it in half on itself. And then push that glue down. And then while this is still wet, what you want to do is you want to just close it the opposite direction and make sure that it lays flat. So that way you can just crease that out just better, and it'll just help to make the card more stable and fold nicely in your envelope. And you want to make sure it goes flat on both sides. All right, so that's looking good. So now we're going to put glue just on that last flap, that little flap on the end. And again, then we're just going to close the card on itself. And just line up those edges and make sure they're straight. And that's the box part of the card so far. Next, we're going to take those 3 pieces that are the wood grain paper, and these are going to get glued to the bottom of the card on 3 sides. So I'm just going to put glue on the first one. I'm going to start on the center piece, and that'll be for the front of the card. Just going to make sure that it's even, has a nice border all the way around. And then we'll do the other side. You're not going to do anything on the back, so we'll put the next one on the right side. And then we'll turn it and we'll put the last piece on the last side. If you had a full piece of the wood grain paper that was double-sided, you could definitely just cut it out of that and you wouldn't have to do all this extra work. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to work on the flaps now. And so what I have is I have 15 of those pieces plus 6 of the ones going the opposite direction. So I've just laid them out, just making sure I've got them all. And then we're just going to glue these down. Now you don't need to go from top to bottom. You want to get it in the middle because you're going to glue those ones that are going the opposite direction on the top and the bottom. So I'm just going to glue these. And you want to make sure that they are up to the edge and then just side by side. If it runs over, you can cut it off on one end. So I'm just laying these out, making sure they're glued down. You can see this one's over, so I'm just going to take my scissors and we'll just cut that piece away. I'm just going to close the card on itself and then just cut that away. And then on the top, we're going to put the pieces going the opposite direction. And they fit nicely so that they're the exact size of the paper. That way it just gives it just a little bit of contrast. Now, if you do have extra like I do, you can go ahead and cut those off, and we'll do that. I'll do that towards the end. All right, so I'm going to turn it. We're going to do the next side, and we're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to glue these down. They don't have to be even or perfect because you're going to put those two pieces up on top. So don't worry about if they're not totally lined up. And I'll flip it into the other one. Now you can also just put glue if you want, just on your piece, if it makes it easier for you. So I'm just going to put glue on here, and then I'll put the pieces down. And then we'll glue that top piece on and the bottom. And then we'll turn this around. We'll do the last side. And that's perfect. Now for this black piece, you'd only need about 2 inches of it. So this is just a piece of scrap. I'm going to do about a 1/2 inch over. So I'm just kind of measuring where I want it. And then I'm just going to cut this at 1 inch and then fold it in half on both pieces. And then I'm just going to glue these just to there. This is so it looks like the hinges on the barn door. So I'm just going to glue these down. I can get this back open. Let me grab my tweezers. Let's see if this will make it easier for me. All right, so I'm just going to start probably about 1/2 inch from the very top, and then just fold it over on itself, and then make sure it's straight. And then we'll do the second one. We'll do that from the same distance going from the bottom. And then just pinch that together. And then what I did is I grabbed a brad, and I'm just putting a glue dot on the back of it. You could use a foam dot too if you wanted. It's very small, so I'm just putting just a piece of glue on the back of it. And I'm just going to secure that to the side right here. I didn't put it through the card because I wanted those extra pieces to show. All right, then we're going to do some lights, and these are from a Karen Berniston set that I am using because I didn't have any other lights. So I'm going to use these on here. So those are a die cut. If you don't have them, if you have something else, you can use it, or you can just make your own by doing dots, or you can even use paint. I saw someone use paint and do it. So whatever you want. I'm just laying these out to see what colors I want and where I want them. And then I'm going to glue these down. And I'm not going to make them go all the way up to the top of the card. I'm just going to make them go right up there because I'm going to put snow around the top of this. And so I'm just going to start on the other side just to make sure I've got them kind of laid out and I've got them even across. And you can have these hanging just however you want. Again, if you wanted, you could put more on the side of it too. So now I'm just using some just acrylic paint. And let me grab a piece of paper. So I'm just going to dab this on there because I don't want to get too much. Let me turn this. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the edges of the card. So I'm just going to quickly just dab on white paint. just so it looks like snow. I'll have it going just a little bit over in some areas. And I'm just going to do it just up on the very top where the lights are. So that way it kind of hides them so you can't see them all, but you can see the lights, but not, the string that's holding them. And then I'm going to take more paint and I'm going to do the inside of that piece that we glued on the inside. And you can put as much, you can go as thick as you want or as little as you want on here. And you want to give it just some drip so it looks like snow. So you don't want to do a solid line. You want to give it just a little bit of character on there, just to make it look like, natural snow. And then I'm also going to do it on the little ledges that we did on those two pieces, top and bottom that we did. We're going to put some across there on both the bottom piece and the top piece. So I'm just going really slow. I'm not going to put a lot on here. I just want to make it look like the snow caught on there too. Make sure I do some that looks like it's dripping just a little bit. And then I'll do the top piece. And then we're going to turn it and we're going to do the other two sides. And then I'll turn it back to the last side and we'll do the same thing. This dries really, really fast, so you don't need to worry about it. Just don't get it on too thick, but it will dry super fast and you won't have to worry about it. Then I'm also going to put some on those little hinges that we did. Just a little bit, and then just a little bit on the little knob. Perfect. Just want to just touch up just the inside here, just so I didn't get quite to the edge. All right, then I'm also going to put some on the reindeer. So let me grab him. I'm going to put some up on top by his ears, and then also on his little paws in a couple places. So just a little bit so it looks like he's been hanging out in the snow too. All right, so let me get the paint out of the way. So on the reindeer, we're going to put him so his paws are going to be sticking out of the front, and then his body will be in the back on that little ledge. So I'm going to cut just some slits, just a little bit. I cut them earlier, but I want to do them just a little bit deeper. So I'm not going to cut it all the way off, but just enough so that it can sit in there. And then I'm just going to put this on the card. So again, his back is in the back of it and his paws are on the front. So just like that. Let me turn it so you can see it. So it looks like he's holding on to that little ledge. So I'm going to grab just my glue and I'm going to put glue on the bottom on the front. And then, off screen, and put just on the other side of his paws. I'm going to use my tweezers just to hold it so I can get the back piece behind it and then the two pieces up on front. And I'll just push those on just so that they're secure. And then later on the back, I'll probably put season's greetings or something on the back. I didn't put any sentiment on here yet. I just wanted to make this card because I love this reindeer and I thought it'd be really cute to make this card and make it look like he's in a barn. So I want to thank you for joining me. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. Until next time, happy crafting, and I hope to see you real soon. Bye-bye.